Hello and welcome to today's webinar with the topic TwinCAT 3 XCAD Interface Create and Manage I/O Configurations Efficiently. My name is Béla Höfig. I'm part of the product management TwinCAT and I'm responsible for the XCAD Interface. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please feel free to use the questions window of the GoToWebinar software. I will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of this webinar. Any open questions will be answered via email afterwards. Today, I would like to start with the motivation behind the software. Then I will present the AML data exchange as the basic product and the XCAD interface. At the end, I would like to switch to a short live demonstration of the workflow of the XCAD product and also to show the latest feature which are already included. So let's start with the motivation. We have implemented the software because of a specific scenario in which the electrical design is done in an ECAD tool on the one hand side, and the PLC development is done in TwinCAT 3. In this scenario, we see the challenge that although the I/O topology is already defined in an ECAD tool, it has to be added manually in TwinCAT. And this leads to a higher effort and a higher error rate as it has to be done manually. This, in addition, also leads to a longer project duration and higher project costs. So the requirement, I think, is pretty clear. We do need an interface between the ECAD tool side and TwinCAT. And this is exactly what the XCAD interface is about. And to be able to present the XCAD interface, I would like to start with the AML data exchange. This AML data exchange is a software which is fully integrated into TwinCAT, and it's based on a new exchange format called AutomationML. This format is a standardized format which becomes more and more popular and is supported by an increasing number of ECAD tools. With the help of this file format, we can export an I/O topology which already exists on ECAD tool side and import it in TwinCAT 3, which in this case then automatically generates the I/O topology. So it is no longer necessary to add it manually. On basis of unique IDs, which are added in the AutomationML for each of the components, we can also support an incremental data update, which means that if you have an early state of your project, for example, and you would like to already export an early version of your I/O topology, then this is easily possible and you can import it in TwinCAT 3. And later, if you have continued working on the I/O topology on the ECAD tool side, you can do another export and import it into TwinCAT 3 again. In this case, the TwinCAT project compare tool is opened automatically. And as each of the components has this unique ID, it is possible to compare the two topologies and add new items, for example, delete old ones or rename items. In addition, on basis of this AutomationML format, it is also possible to have a bidirectional data exchange. Again, a sample, which is later on in the whole workflow during the commissioning. If you do changes, smaller changes in the I/O topology during the commissioning, it is necessary to get those information back into the ECAD tool. And in this case, it is also possible to do an export in TwinCAT 3 and use it to add those information, those updates to the ECAD tool side. And on basis of this AML data exchange, it's going to be possible to, on the one hand side, make the change management easier, but also it leads to less mistakes as it doesn't have to be done manually anymore. In addition, we can shorten the project duration and we also have less project costs as we can more or less parallelize the electrical and the software engineering. If we have a closer look at the TwinCAT side, you will see that the AML data exchange is fully integrated into the TwinCAT 3 engineering, and it's internally using the automation interface to generate the I/O topology. It is available for free, and it is integrated in build 4024. So if you do install build 4024.12, for example, the software is automatically installed and you can use it without further costs. We have extended this workflow of the AML data exchange with the help of the XCAD interface. This XCAD interface defines so-called XCAD plugins, which can be used to edit and also enrich the data which is saved in the AML file. So for example, we have added a specific plugin as a standard plugin, which is called Create GVL with Links plugin. As the name says, this plugin automatically creates a PLC project, a global variable list, and it automatically adds the variable to the global variable list and also automatically map those variables to the I/O already. And this is actually based on an information which is added to the AutomationML file. It is based on so-called tag tables. So since this exchange format, it is possible to add further information on the ECAD tool side, which is more or less a description of variables for each of the channels you are configuring. And during the export, the ECAD tool automatically adds those information to a tag table, which then consists of all those different tag descriptions. And during the import, this plugin is parsing those information and is automatically adding the variables and is also mapping the variables to the I/O. If we are talking about naming conventions, we will see that the naming is done totally different on ECAD tool side and TwinCAT side. For example, on the ECAD tool side, names often have like special characters like in an equal sign, a plus, a minus sign, and these special characters aren't allowed on the PLC side. So it is either possible now to set a rule of or define a set of rules for the electrical designers, or, and this is the way we are going to handle it, you can use our convert variable names plugin in addition to the other plugin to convert the variable names. And this is based on a graphical designer. I'm going to show this later on in the live demonstration. And within this graphical editor, you can add, change, and delete rules to, for example, delete special characters or replace special characters like an equal sign. But in addition, if you, for example, use a specific programming convention for the PLC programming, like adding prefixes to the variable name according to the data type which is used, like a B, for example, for Boolean variable, then also rules like this can be added to this convert variable names plugin. In addition, the XCAD interface also allows to automatically add comments which are defined for each of the tags. So it is possible to define comments on the ECAD tool side. They are exported, and we can then import and add them automatically on the channel side, so in the I/O topology, but also for the variable which is automatically generated. In addition, we can also change automatically the PDO name. So as an example, for an EL 1008, we have like channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, And underneath those channels, we do have this input, and this is the PDO actually. And this can be renamed according to the tag name or the name which is used for the variable which is linked. So in this case, we can add additional information also on the IO topology side to make it easier to understand what those channels are actually used for. Last but not least, and this is also very important, we are able to add additional configurations. What does it mean? In some cases, you have predefined settings which you have to configure for each of a specific terminal, for example. But those settings cannot be added on ECAD tool side because it's simply not necessary to have those information in the ECAD tool. But you would like to automatically set those configuration when importing it to TwinCAT. And therefore, you can open a new configuration in TwinCAT, predefine those settings for the terminal, and then you can export it and save it as an XDI file. And later, you can forward those XDI file to the electrical engineer, and the electrical designer then can simply edit in case it's necessary to the ECAD tool without having to know any details of the specific configuration. And during the import via the XCAD interface, it is then automatically added in TwinCAT. So all in all, we can achieve a new workflow in which there's less time needed for variable mapping because this is now done automatically. And in general, by adding comments automatically, by changing the PDO names automatically, and also adding configuration templates automatically, we can minimize the overall amount of work. And this leads to a shorter project duration and again to less project costs. And now I would like to switch to the live demonstration to shortly show you what the XCAD interface is capable of. I have prepared a short demonstration, which I have implemented in ePlan as the ECAD tool site. And I'm going to export this topology. It is an embedded PC, a CX5140, and two terminals, an EL1008 and 2008. And I'm simply going to export it via PLC and export data. Here is the dialog. Going to save it as AutomationML, of course. Yes, I would like to export it. And then I can already switch to my TwinCAT project. This is an empty TwinCAT project, so no PLC project is added and no IO configuration is added. And now I can select my TwinCAT project, right-click on my TwinCAT project, and I will get the information about the import AutomationML. And I can select, for example, the XCAD interface import or the AML data exchange import. Those commands are also available via TwinCAT, AutomationML, and here again we can see the possibility to import topology via AutomationML. So I'm going to select XCAD interface, and I can add the exported topology of the ePlan project. Simply press open, and then you can see for a short time at least the output window. And now already the dialog is opened, which is called variable converter. This is part of the variable converter plugin. And in this dialog, you can easily define and change your set of rules graphically. So we do have different collections of rules, like for example, an input-output prefix rules, You can see them here. So 2 rules added to this collection. And there are other collections, for example, for adding a data prefix according to the data type. So for a Boolean variable, a b is added at the beginning, for example. And you can, of course, also enable and disable those collections. And here's another sample, which I've already talked about, the replace special characters. So in case the electrical designer has used a variable or variable name with an equal sign in it, we can simply delete it, or we could replace it with an underscore, for example. All those settings for the rules are automatically saved in one file, which is normally as default saved locally on your engineering system. It is saved as JSON. And you can change, of course, the location where this file is saved. So for example, if you would like to add this file on a server folder, this is possible, and you can change the route or the path to this file to, for example, handle the rules in a central place. If you don't want to show this variable converter rules dialog during the next import, you can also enable and disable the dialog right here. But we keep it like this and just press OK. And then we will see the output window again, where you get an overview about all the tasks which have already been executed, but also, of course, the current task which is executed right now. And at the end, you can see how long it took to execute the task. This one here took 2 minutes because I've presented the dialog. And then if it's executed successfully, succeeded is displayed. Otherwise, an error would be displayed at the end. And you can always have a closer look. So there are detailed output messages, which we can simply open by clicking right into this task. So for example, if I press here, we can see an overview about the output, which is during this execution of this task, which is done. Here it is possible to also search for specific entries like out1, and then it will be highlighted within the context. But you can, of course, also just change and search for a specific entry. At the end, we will see that the AML file, which was changed, is actually saved in addition in the folder of the TwinCAT project to be able to open it again and see what we have actually added. So now I can close the editor here, and we can have a closer look at our project. As you can see, the ECAD master is automatically added. We have added the coupler and 2 terminals, the 1008 and 2008. And each of the channels are already mapped to a PLC variable because I've added a variable description on ECAD side, and it has been exported into a tag table, and we have simply passed it and added it. So we can switch, go to link variable to the variable in the PLC process image, and we can also have a closer look at the place where it is declared. Go to definition, and then we can see that we have an overview about all the variables which have been created. For each of the variables, the comment is added, and it's also automatically added to the PLC process image. And it's, of course, the same for the second terminal. So also those channels are automatically mapped to the PLC process image. And the comment is also added here. And of course, also for the channel here. If I now switch back to the ECAD tool side, I can do changes, of course, on the ECAD tool side. For example, I'm going to add a new terminal. Dialog is shown on the other screen. And I'm going to add an EL9011, which is here. Open. Simply can add it at the end of my topology. There is another dialog. Copy mark here. Okay, and that's it. I have to configure it. Where is the dialog? Here it is. And we can, this was the wrong terminal. This is the correct one. We can add it to the same station. So the embedded PC, we can define a position where it should be added. And that's actually it. And now we can do another export via PLC export data. You can choose the same file. This is okay. And now I can switch again to my TwinCAT project. I can save my project and import the next version of my topology. And in this case, I'm going to choose the same file as I've updated it and press open. Again, the variable converter rules dialog pops up. In case you don't want to show it, as I said, you can simply disable it. So I confirm the dialog, and you can see that a second project is added to the same solution, which has the same name plus an underscore increment. And now the XCAD interface is adding the topology and is also adding the PLC content. And afterwards, we can compare it within our TwinCAT project compare tool. So it's adding right now the PLC project. There it is. It's building the PLC project. And then the project compare started. Oh. Here it is. And now we can switch into the IO topology. And we can see that this object is now added. Doesn't exist on the original side. So I can accept this change. It's added on this side. Can press save. Can close this dialog here. And then TwinCAT detects a change, which I'm going to reload. And then the IO topology is automatically updated. And we can see our new terminal, which is added at the end of my topology. So now we can also, of course, do a change on the TwinCAT side. For example, I'm going to rename the terminal here to, for example, this name. And now I can do an export on TwinCAT side. So in the context menu of TwinCAT, we do now also have the command export AutomationML. I'm going to export it as TwinCAT export. And now in the background, the information of the old AML file, which we have imported before, and the information of my updated IO topology are merged and exported. And if it's finishing it, it is then possible to import those changes in the ePlan side. So now it's done. I can close it and switch back to the ECAD side. And now we can do an import. Shown on the other display. Here we are. TwinCAT export. This is the correct file. And it's updated now. Now, if we double click on the terminal, which we have changed, we can see that now the name has been changed to my EL9011. So also adding changes from TwinCAT side to the AML file is possible and importing it to the ECAD tool side. If I switch back to TwinCAT, I can also always access the log file. So if I would like to have a closer look at the log file again, I can switch to AutomationML, open log. Then I can open the old XCAD Interface log, which is then automatically showing the last log with all the information which you are used to. So all the details which you can have a look at. In the options, you can, in addition, on the plugin side, define which of the predefined plugins you would like to use. So there is, as I said, a convert variable names right now and a create global variable list with links plugin. And you can change the position, for example, or configure it. So if you would like to change the rules without having to import a new AML file, you can do this here within the XCAD options. So this is actually the same editor as you also get when importing it. So here it's the graphical editor again. And here you can also enable and disable the dialog. Okay. So I would like to switch back to my presentation. I would like to sum up the two products. And the first one is the AML data exchange. This is actually a product which is automatically available with a TwinCAT build. So if you install 4024.12, it is a standard feature which is installed and it's free of any costs. So you can directly start to use it in TwinCAT and import the hardware topology. If you would like to, in addition, add the or use the advantages of the XCAD interface, like adding the PLC content, adding links automatically, comments, rename the PDOs, or adding configuration templates, then you can install TE 1120, the XCAD interface, and it's going to be available then. I would like to thank you for your attention and have a nice day.